talk about Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. It's a lot to discuss with this organization moving forward. Now, you see the title of the video. I do believe that they will bounce back for this upcoming season stronger than ever. Now, I'm going to tell you why. We're going to go through the NFL draft, what they did in free agency, and what went wrong last season. Now, last season for the Kansas City Chiefs in the regular season, they went 15-2, but it wasn't the strongest 15-2. And look, wins are wins. There's no such thing as a bad win, but they had a lot of close games last season. They'll win games with blocked field goals, special teams making plays, going out there and depending on Patrick Mahomes, but they dealt with a lot of injuries. This is the one thing that a lot of people don't talk about. The Chiefs have dealt with injuries to the wide receiving position and the same in the running back room. Rashee Rice had a very good rookie season. He was an important player his rookie year. He was the number one wide receiver for this team. The number one option was Travis Kelce still. But Rashee Rice came in. He took over that role as being the best wide receiver that they had. In year two, he went out there. He performed very well. But he got injured early in the year against the Los Angeles Chargers. And this really does suck. Patrick Mahomes throws an interception. He's trying to go out there and undercut a defender. Instead, it's friendly fire. He tears up the knee with Rashee Rice, and he said that he did feel bad. He was out for the rest of the year. You already had a weak spot at this position. Hollywood Brown missed majority of the season. He got injured in the preseason, so he missed a lot of time. You have to make a trade here. They go out there, they bring in DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins at this stage of his career is a solid number 3 wide receiver, and I mean that in the nicest way possible. You're not getting the same DeAndre Hopkins that played with the Houston Texans. You're not getting the DeAndre Hopkins that played with the Arizona Cardinals. Not a bad wide receiver, but he can't beat that press man coverage over and over again. But it's okay. You drafted Xavier Worthy in the first round. So you see Xavier Worthy, who was supposed to be the number 3 option alongside Rashee Rice, and the same with Hollywood Brown. He's now your number 2 wide receiver. And on most weeks, he's your number 1 wide receiver. That was a lot of stress to put on Xavier Worthy. And as the season progressed, he continued to get better. Travis Kelce took a step back in terms of being that explosive tight end. He was still able to go out there and convert on 3rd and short and get some big gains here and there, like how he was able to against the Houston Texans in the NFL playoffs. But when you look at Travis Kelce, he is getting older. He did lose 25 pounds this offseason. I think that he can bounce back, but eventually it's going to be time to phase out Travis Kelce. Not because he's a terrible player. That's just how sports go. When you get older, it's time to bring in some younger players and some better talent. And I look at Noah Gray. He had 437 receiving yards last season, 5 receiving touchdowns. He can be a very good, consistent tight end playing alongside Travis Kelce. And you still have Jared Wiley there as well. But I look at Travis. He doesn't have to go out there and have the speed that he once had. He's a smart tight end. We've seen this with Jimmy Graham. We've seen this with Rob Gronkowski. When those players got older, they did not have the explosive ability anymore. But they knew coverages. They've seen everything because they're seasoned veterans. Travis Kelce is going to go down as one of the best tight ends of all time. When you run zone coverage, he knows where the weak spots are at. He just goes there, sits in the middle of the field, converts. And it's still hard to bring him down because he's a bigger body. He's trying to go out there and he's trying to get faster by losing that weight. I think it is what it is with Travis. He can still beat you over top every now and then. I'm talking about up the seams. But on a consistent basis, it's not going to happen. But he still has that chemistry with Patrick Mahomes. So you have all these injuries that you're dealing with. Isaiah Pacheco, he gets injured early in the year. He suffers a nasty leg injury. They had to go out there and depend on Carson Steele, their fullback, for an entire game against the Atlanta Falcons. Carson Steele went out there and had the game of his life against the Falcons, and then he fell off the face of the earth. He's not meant to be a starting running back in the NFL. You have to call someone up. Well, they called in Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt is not the same running back that he was when he first signed the Cleveland Browns, and he for sure is not the same running back that he was when the Kansas City Chiefs drafted him and brought him in, but he was consistent. He was a very good power back last season. The reason why I'm bringing up all the injuries and the fact you're dealing with a regressing tight end, your offensive line, you were dealing with problems there. Kingsley at the tackle position as a rookie, they benched him. It got so bad, they said, hey, Joe Tooney, can you go out there? Can you play left tackle? This is one of the best guards in the game. He goes out there. He has his hands full with Myles Garrett. Did not have the best day, but he started to play very well at the left tackle position. But that's not his natural position. So this entire offense was a complete mess. And yet you still went to the Super Bowl against the Philadelphia Eagles. That is how good Patrick Mahomes is. That is how good Andy Reid is. I bring all that up because of the numbers with Patrick Mahomes over the last 2 years. We're used to Mahomes having over 50 passing touchdowns in a year, 40 passing touchdowns in a year. I'm going to say this. His numbers have regressed the last 2 years, but it's not because of him. He still has that impact on the field to where he makes everyone better. He is still, in my opinion, the best quarterback in the NFL. I'm taking him over Josh Allen. I'm taking him over Lamar Jackson. I'm taking him over Joe Burrow. He is phenomenal. But they have become very Patrick Mahomes dependent. Whenever they're dealing with injuries, whenever a play breaks down, whenever the offensive line can't perform, they turn to Patrick. And he's a generational talent. It's the same thing the Patriots did with Tom Brady. But eventually, you're going to run into teams like the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl. They're going to be able to go out there and find your weak spots and get to you over and over again. And Patrick Mahomes did not have his best day in the Super Bowl, but the offensive line was terrible. This is the second time. When they get to the big dance, their offensive line has let them down. Now, this time around, they weren't dealing with major injuries. Against Tampa Bay Buccaneers, damn near the entire offensive line was out for that game. They need to do a better job in terms of protecting Patrick Mahomes up front, which brings me into the NFL draft here. The first round, you selected a very good tackle in Josh Simmons. He was the best tackle in college with Caden Proctor, who I think is going to be a great tackle at Alabama for his last season. But I look at Josh Simmons, before he suffered that torn patella tendon, this man was phenomenal. If he can go out there and stay fully healthy, they're getting a franchise tackle at the left tackle position. And boy, they really need him to go out there and pan out. It's crazy to think about this because you have Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, you had Joe Thuney, the best interior offensive line. But your tackle positions have not been good over the last 2 to 3 seasons. So bringing in Josh Simmons, he could stay fully healthy. And the Chiefs, they did a lot of work on him and his injury. They talked with him a lot. They looked at his medicals and they said that he'll be fine come training camp. I hope that's the case. If he can stay fully healthy, he can come in right now and he can give you great protection on the left side of this offensive line. He's an amazing pass protector. He's a very good run blocker. He was the best offensive lineman on that Ohio State team. And I really wish that he did not go down last season because he was phenomenal before that injury. Not only did you bring in Josh Simmons, you also went out in free agency and you bring in Jalen Moore. Just in case Josh Simmons is not ready to play, he's still dealing with the torn patella injury, you have Jalen Moore. There's flexibility here. He could play the guard position. He could play the left tackle position. And he's a consistent player. He's only 27 years old. So you don't have to worry about rushing in a young player like Kingsley and worry about him going out there against experienced edge rushers. You bring in Jalen Moore. He's seen a lot of edge rushers with the San Francisco 49ers. I think that he can come in. He can be a very good player. You're just looking for offensive linemen that can stay consistent and they can just be on the field and just don't have to worry about injuries here. Now, losing Joe Thuney, that does suck. You trade him to the Chicago Bears. You really didn't have a choice but to. The cap concerns here. It's time to go out there and start to pay some of those high-end players on defense and the same on the offensive end. And I look at Joe Thuney. He is getting older, but he's still one of the best players to have at the offensive line position. Like I just mentioned before, the man played tackle. He played the guard position very well. You still have Creed Humphrey, one of the best centers. Trey Smith, one of the best right guards. I look at Jawan Taylor. I wish that Wanya Morris could come in and be that starting right tackle. I'm not the biggest fan of Jawan Taylor. They signed this man to a lot of money a couple of years ago. His first season with Kansas City, he was the most penalized player in the NFL. He's not a good right tackle. When you look at him in one-on-one situations, he's terrible. And the reason why he doesn't get a lot of flack for his game by the national media, they look at the system that Andy Reid is running. They get the football out quick. It's Patrick Mahomes making a lot of crazy plays, and he's the right tackle. If he was a starting left tackle, you'll see how bad he is. He's not a good right tackle. He'll have his occasional moments where he looks solid, but the penalties have hurt him a lot, and he's not an elite pass protector, and he's not good in run blocking either. So I look at Jawan Taylor. Can he step up this season? I don't know about it. Hopefully that could be the case. And he's playing alongside one of the best right guards in the game in Trey Smith. Usually when tackles are struggling a lot, when you play across an all-pro type of guard like a Trey Smith, he elevates your game. I look at Jawan Taylor. When he was with the Jaguars, he was solid. Since he come over to the Chiefs, he's had some okay moments. But for what they're paying him, he hasn't been a good player. You guys may disagree with that, but I've seen him go against teams like the Steelers. TJ Watt coming off that side, giving him a lot of pressure. He gets saved because Travis Kelce is wide open. Or Rashee Rice, he's wide open, and the same as Xavier Worthy. But he's still giving up a lot of pressures on his side of the line. He needs to be better. So hopefully bringing in Jalen Moore and the same with Josh Simmons can help propel this offense to the next level. And part of the reason why the numbers have taken a step back over the last 2 years is the injuries, the wide receivers not being good like Kadarius Toney, the same with Sky Moore. They just couldn't catch a cold. They miss Eric Bieniemy. They miss having him in that room. He was a terrible coach with the Washington Commanders. Don't get me wrong. But Tyreek Hill has said this man will hold you accountable. He will chew you out in front of everyone. He don't care who you are. And I look at Eric Bieniemy. He had more structure with this offense. Now, Andy Reid, in my opinion, is still the best coach in the game currently right now. But you look at all the undisciplined plays on the offensive end, offsides by players in the past like Kadarius Toney, offsides like players with Jawan Taylor. You didn't have instances like that when Eric Bieniemy was with this coaching staff. But look at Andy Reid. He deserves a lot of credit. He's been able to go out there and scheme open wide receivers like DeAndre Hopkins. And DeAndre Hopkins still solid. But look at it from this standpoint. In that first Super Bowl against Philadelphia, when they won that game, you had those 2 touchdowns. Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore. Andy Reid is scheming these men open over and over again. He's finding ways for them to just run open into the flat. Eventually, you're going to need guys to go out there and you just say, hey, you know what? Go get open. And I think when I look at their depth chart right now, having Rashee Rice, having Xavier Worthy, having Hollywood Brown and Travis Kelce, if they can stay fully healthy, and that's the biggest thing here, if they can stay healthy, this could be one of the best wide receiving cores that Patrick Mahomes has played with. I know in the past he played with Tyreek Hill. You know, you had Sammy Watkins, you had Travis Kelce. A lot of people look at Tyreek Hill and they viewed him as the best deep threat in the NFL at the time, and he was. But it was more than just Patrick Mahomes throwing the football deep down the field. Tyreek Hill, just his mere presence on the field, made teams realize, hey, we may have to go out there and double team this man, have a cornerback watch him down low, and have a safety over the top. Over the last few years, the Chiefs, they played him differently. They'll play a lot of cover 2 man, a lot of cover 2 shell. And they'll just press up those wide receivers. That's what the Philadelphia Eagles did. They played some cover 1, some cover 2. Guys just couldn't get open. And Mahomes was just terrible in the Super Bowl. Let's just call it for what it is. But if you have consistent players in Xavier Worthy, who showed out in the back end of that game against Philadelphia in meaningful snaps, I know the game was over with, but Vic Fangio, he did not want the Chiefs to score. We've seen Xavier Worthy have big-time moments. You have Rashee Rice. He's a better route runner right now. Xavier Worthy will get there one day. And Travis Kelce, the veteran, those are a bunch of guys that can get open and they can beat one-on-one assignments with Hollywood Brown, and they can take the top off the defense. And the one thing that we have seen with Patrick Mahomes since they traded Tyreek Hill, he can dink and dunk his way down the field. One of the most accurate quarterbacks in the game, and he will be patient. And that's the one thing that helped get the Chiefs over the top last season, even though they had all these injuries. Patrick Mahomes just being patient. He wasn't going out there and getting frustrated. We'll eat you up. We'll go down there. We'll get 3 yards if that's what it takes. Now it's 2nd and 7. We'll run the football. Now it's 3rd and 3. Now we can either pass the football here or we can run the football. We can do a shovel pass to Travis Kelce. It's those type of options that Andy Reid had at his disposal. So a healthier team should definitely work out in the favor of Kansas City, and the same with Patrick Mahomes here. But the offensive line should drastically improve, even though they have a rookie in Josh Simmons. I'm very high on him. The same with Jalen Moore. I like the rest of the offensive line pieces, except for Jawan Taylor at the right tackle position. As far as the running back room here, like I mentioned before, Isaiah Pacheco, when he went down with that leg injury, he was not the same running back. He was able to come back and play. He was averaging over 5 yards a carry before he got injured. The man ended the season averaging just 3 yards a carry in most games. He was healthy from a moving up and down standpoint, from a going out there, running on the treadmill, being able to stretch and work out standpoint. That is different from going out there and playing week to week an NFL game. He didn't have the same speed coming out the backfield because he was still lingering with that injury, and he did come back too soon. Now, this is just my opinion, but I've seen Isaiah Pacheco before, and he's dealt with injuries in the past. Look at him against the Philadelphia Eagles in that Super Bowl a couple of years ago, how he's running. As soon as he came back, it wasn't the same. And Andy Reid, he realized this. Him and Matt Nagy, they still gave Kareem Hunt majority of the carries. They will give him 15 to 20 carries in the game. Isaiah Pacheco, who was a lead running back for them a couple of years back, they're just giving him 6 to 10 carries at the most in a game? That didn't seem right. And you know that they really love Isaiah Pacheco in that building because he runs hard. He can push the pile. He's not a speed back. He's not a blazer. He's not a Chris Johnson. He's not going to go out there and be the next Jamal Charles. But he can break a lot of tackles in space, and he's hard as hell to bring down. Last season, when he came back from that injury, he'll break a couple of tackles, but it didn't have the same effect. Hopefully, with him recovering in this entire offseason, he'll have a chance to get healthier, bounce back in this offensive system. And I always say this, as long as you have Andy Reid as your head coach and you have Patrick Mahomes at the quarterback position, you're going to be a Super Bowl contender year in and year out. We could talk about the Buffalo Bills. I'm a huge fan of Josh Allen. We could talk about Lamar Jackson, the Baltimore Ravens. I'm a huge fan of Lamar Jackson. I love to see him go out there and play and run around. Neither one of those quarterbacks have answered the call in the playoffs against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. And that's just how it is. And speaking of those quarterbacks, part of the reason why they have struggled so much against Kansas City in their defense is because of Coach Spags. When I look at their defense here, their defense last season, they were very good in situational pass rushing situations. And I know that's a bit weird. That's a bit of weird language there, but just listen to this for a second. When you look at the sack numbers with Kansas City last year, Kansas City was 19th in sacks. They only had 39 sacks as a team. Majority of that came from George Karlaftis and the same with Chris Jones. Those are your two sack monsters there. Outside of them, you didn't see many guys go back there and put a lot of pressure on the quarterback. But when it mattered the most, they could go back there and they can get to the quarterback on a consistent basis because Coach Spags, he was sending in that blitz. We've seen that blitz do a lot of damage against quarterbacks like Derek Carr in the regular season, Josh Allen in the postseason, Lamar Jackson in the past. He'll send in that blitz out of nowhere. And a quarterback, he doesn't have enough time in the pocket. They don't have time to go out there and check protection, slide to the right or slide to the left. And it's so unpredictable because Spags, he'll send in a blitz from the nickel. He'll send in a blitz from the outside. And in most cases, it'll be a delayed blitz. So when you think someone is open, or even if he is open, here comes someone like Leo Chenal right in your face. Right in your face. So I think Coach Spags, having the defensive pieces that they added in through the NFL draft, they will be better on this side of the ball as well. You still have Charles Omenihu. I like him a lot. He hasn't been the same player since he tore his ACL in that playoff run a year ago. But Charles Omenihu, he's more so known for being a big lineman that can keep up with quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson, and the same with Josh Allen. He can just be that quarterback spot for you. The same with him and the same with Leo at the linebacker position. Like I mentioned before, Chris Jones is still one of the best defensive linemen in the game. He can play defensive end. He can play defensive tackle. One of the best run stoppers. George Karlaftis, love his game. They have an elite run defense year in and year out. They make you one-dimensional. Then they force you to go out there and test out their secondary. Now, their secondary had some struggles last season. They traded L'Jarius Sneed to the Tennessee Titans. He wasn't the same cornerback last season with the Titans how he was with Kansas City. Hopefully that can turn around because I'm still a huge fan of L'Jarius Sneed. But part of that is because you were still dealing with injuries on the back end of your defense. And I look at a cornerback like Jalen Watson. He's underrated. He's a solid cornerback. The same with him. The same with Brian Cook at the free safety position. These are unsung heroes for Kansas City, especially Brian Cook. Brian Cook can be a special player with this team long term. All he has to do is just stay healthy. You did lose Justin Reed. He's now with the New Orleans Saints. Pay attention to that move. You do have Jaden Hicks, who had 3 interceptions last season, 5 pass deflections. But you look at Justin Reed, he was able to do so many good things for you. Cover tight ends in space, cover running backs out the backfield, blitz on the side. He was a Swiss Army knife. But if Coach Spags has the right type of coaching around these safeties and around these cornerbacks, your secondary should be better. Trent McDuffie, one of the best cornerbacks in the game. I don't have to say much about Trent McDuffie. This man's a superstar. We've seen this against that Super Bowl with the San Francisco 49ers. You just put him in one-on-one situations. You just say, hey, press up at the line of scrimmage. That's it. He can ice out some of the best wide receivers in the game. And you have Chamari Connor. I think that he's a solid cornerback to have at the nickel position. Christian Fulton early on with the Tennessee Titans was regarded as a bust of a player. Goes over to the Los Angeles Chargers for a year, has a career year. He's in this division. The Chiefs went against him. If it's any coach that can get the most out of him, it'll be Jesse Mentor, defensive coordinator with the Chargers, and it'll be Coach Spags, defensive coordinator with the Chiefs here. So I know that I'm making a lot of excuses for a team that went 15-2 last season, but I'm just adding in context to why some of those games were so close. And I know a lot of people, they say, well, the referees, they played into their favor. They had a lot of flags there. Yes and no. When I look at that Bengals game, I don't know what the hell the defender was thinking. Patrick Mahomes throws the football to the middle of the field. Here comes the defender. You just can't hit the wide receiver before the ball gets there. that's going to be a flag. We've seen the Raiders go out there, Black Friday game. The center, he misses a snap to Aiden O'Connell. You can't go out there and say things like that are scripted. It's just bad football by the opposing team. So I look at Kansas City. They didn't beat themselves. They'll have their penalties, like I mentioned before, with wide receivers in the past, like Kadarius Toney, and the same with Jawan Taylor. They just have a great head coach that can overcome that, and the same with Patrick Mahomes. They don't beat themselves. That's the one thing there. They'll go out there and they'll find ways to continue to just bludgeon you and wear you down for the entire game. They'll keep the game close. And late in the fourth quarter, you better hope that Patrick Mahomes doesn't have a minute and some change left on the clock, because if he does, 9 times out of 10, they're going to walk away with a game-winning field goal with Harrison Butker, or they're just going to go out there and score the touchdown and you're not going to have any time left. We've seen the same song and dance before with Kansas City. When I look at the rest of the draft picks here, because you did lose some talent on the defensive side of the ball, even though I'm speaking very good things about their secondary here. Tershawn Wharton, very good defensive tackle. He was a rotational piece, very good in terms of getting to the quarterback on a consistent basis and stopping the run every now and then. He wasn't a consistent starter from week to week, but you did draft Omar Norman Lott, defensive tackle out of Tennessee. I think that he can come in. He can be a very good rotational player immediately. You lost Derek Nottie on top of losing Wharton. He had 4 sacks last season. He's an excellent run defender, and he can eat up double teams. When you play alongside someone like Chris Jones, you don't have to go out there and be the star defensive tackle. You can just go out there and fill in a role, just fill in a need. And I expect for him to go out there and do that. He doesn't have to be the guy day one, and he could eventually be that starting defensive tackle long-term for Kansas City. So I love the pick here in the second round. Third round, you selected Ashton, defensive end out of Louisville. Like I mentioned before, pass rush was very hard to come by outside of Chris Jones, and the same with George Karlaftis. So getting Ashton, who had 11 sacks in 2023, only 4.5 sacks in 2024, I think that's a very good deal. I think that's a very good player that can come in, stop the run, key situations, go out there, be sound, and be disciplined. And we're going to see how all these players look week 1. But I look at Kansas City, they are still my team to beat in the AFC. I have them over Buffalo. I have them over the Bengals. I don't know why a lot of people are hiring the Bengals right now. Their defense is not going to take a complete 180 over a course of the offseason. And I have them over the Baltimore Ravens still. This is a team that just went to 3 Super Bowls in a row. They went to a Super Bowl in 2020 as well. So I look at it from this standpoint. They're going to be good. They're going to be amazing regardless, as long as you have that head coach and you have the quarterback. And one more player here I do want to talk about. You got a cornerback in the 4th round, and Noel Williams. I think he's a very good player. Be on lookout for him to compete with Jalen Watson in the back end of that defense. I think that he can come in and he can be a very good cornerback. And I think that he can be a very good number 2 one day. He has a lot of high upside. The man had 7 interceptions last season in college. So we're going to see if he can win that one-on-one battle with Jalen Watson or not. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you feel about the Kansas City Chiefs, and are they still a Super Bowl contender in your opinion? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, I want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless. Peace.